What's up everyone, I'm Dan, and as I signed up to the Duskbloods network test on the Nintendo Switch 2, I was able to play some of this mysterious game from From Software. Now, one of the rules was that no pictures or video could be captured, so unfortunately I can't share my gameplay with you. So all of the footage shown is actually from a preview that was released from Software itself. Now, From Software has built its reputation around challenging games, incredible world building and combat systems that demand patience and precision. So when the studio announced the Duskbloods, a multiplayer focused experience coming exclusively to the Nintendo Switch 2, I was immediately intrigued. After getting hands-on time with the network test, I came away impressed with what they are attempting, although I'm still not completely convinced that this fast-paced multiplayer combat is going to be for everyone. The first thing that stands out about the Duskbloods is just how visually impressive it is. From Software has created a gothic world that feels appropriately dark and mysterious, with detailed environments and a striking atmosphere. The music is equally excellent, helping to create that sense of tension as you explore the city and prepare for the battles ahead. At first the game can feel quite daunting. There are lots of systems to learn, especially if you're coming from a traditional single player Souls game rather than multiplayer titles. Thankfully, the network test does a good job of gradually introducing these mechanics, allowing you to learn as you play rather than throwing absolutely everything at you at once. The combat is probably the biggest change for anyone familiar with previous games. Movement feels much faster, with every character having access to jumps that make traversing the city surprisingly fluid. You also have melee and ranged attacks alongside unique abilities and passive skills depending on which character you choose. The controls are easy enough to learn, and when everything clicks, combat feels really good. However, I did find myself having to fight with the camera quite a lot. The sheer speed of the encounters means keeping track of your character and opponents can become difficult, particularly when multiple players or enemies are involved. I also had to spend some time tinkering with the control settings. The standard layout simply didn't work particularly well for me, so changing things around made a noticeable difference. If you're using the Pro Controller also, having those extra buttons on the back make life so much easier. Even after getting comfortable though, I have some concerns about how the combat will translate when you're regularly fighting other players who have mastered their characters. Much like fighting games, if you're going up against opponents who eat, breathe and sleep this kind of game, when you just want to jump in and casually enjoy yourself, it may not be the best experience. That said, there is a lot more to Duskbloods than simply running around and fighting. The network test features matches built around 8 players, split across 3 rounds. Your goal is to earn virtue, which determines whether you survive each stage of the match. The first round allows everyone to strengthen their character, but after the second round, the 2 players with the lowest virtue are eliminated. After the third round, 3 more players are removed, leaving 3 survivors to compete in the final battle. This structure is one of the most interesting aspects of the Duskbloods. You're constantly having to decide how you want to spend your limited time. Do you explore the map looking for upgrades? Do you hunt down enemies? Do you fight bosses? Do you go after other players? Or do you simply try to stay out of trouble and build up enough virtue to survive? The map is filled with opportunities. Golden spires allow you to recruit allies, while different areas contain virtue and upgrades. You can also teleport around the map when you're out of combat, which I really enjoyed. It makes the large environment feel much more manageable and gives you plenty of options when planning your route. There are also bosses known as trespasses, which can provide powerful rewards. What's particularly interesting is that you don't necessarily have to take them down alone. Nearby players can receive a call for help and join your battle, creating some fantastic moments of unexpected cooperation. And cooperation is actually a surprisingly important part of the Duskbloods. Players can form alliances with others, either by queuing with someone beforehand or by meeting another player during a match. You can even use emotes to propose an alliance. Once allied, virtue is shared between the 2 players, creating an interesting dynamic where you have to decide whether trusting another player is worth the potential reward. The different rounds also introduce events that can completely change how you approach the map. These events help prevent matches from feeling predictable. You're not simply repeating the same sequence every time. The circumstances can change, forcing you to adapt your strategy. The final round is where everything comes together. After the chaos of the earlier rounds, only 3 players remain and they battle it out in a final confrontation. By this point, everyone is significantly more powerful with upgraded abilities, allies and additional health based on their accumulated virtue. These final battles were easily some of the most exciting moments of the network test. They're chaotic, dramatic, and unpredictable, and even an experienced player can find themselves caught off guard by other players' abilities. However, this is also where my biggest concern with the Duskbloods comes in. I'm still not sure how much I'm going to enjoy the PvP side of the game in the long term. Again, the combat is so fast that I often found myself struggling with the camera, and when several players are attacking simultaneously, things can become overwhelming very quickly. I can see this being incredibly satisfying for players who dedicate themselves to mastering the mechanics, but I'm less convinced that it will be as accessible to people who aren't already comfortable with Souls-style combat. I also found myself wishing there was more of a single player element during the network test. The game clearly has the systems that could support a deeper solo experience, and I'm interested to see how much of that From Software expands on in the full release. Importantly, the network test only provided a glimpse of what the Duskbloods has to actually offer. The full game is expected to feature more than 10 playable characters, additional character customization, 3 maps, and more opportunities for story and character progression through the House of Night hub. There are also different types of final encounters, including potential co-op boss battles, which could add some much needed variety to the experience. Sigils will also give players specific objectives to complete during matches, adding another layer of strategy and encouraging different playstyles. After spending time with the network test, I'm definitely intrigued by the Duskbloods. It feels like From Software is taking the ideas that make its games so compelling and throwing them into a completely different multiplayer structure. The result is complicated, occasionally overwhelming, but also incredibly interesting. I don't think I completely understand the Duskbloods yet, and that's probably the biggest takeaway from my time with it. There are so many systems interacting with one another that I think it's going to take considerable time to properly learn the game and figure out what works for me, but I can see some potential there. The atmosphere is fantastic, the music is excellent, the world looks great, and the underlying match structure creates some genuinely exciting moments. My concerns about the speed of combat, the camera, and the heavy multiplayer focus remain, but I'm definitely interested in seeing how From Software develops the game. The Duskbloods may not have completely won me over yet, but it has certainly made me want to see more. Were you able to try the network test, and what was your experience with the game? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and do you think you'll pick this one up? Thanks for watching as always, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to stay up to date with more news on the Duskbloods, and until next time.